Okay, so I want to tell a little short story about this thing that happened that I came up with when I was a kid. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, I do have Asperger's syndrome. I've managed to outgrow it at this point about as much as I'm ever going to overcome or outgrow it. But when I was younger, I basically had like full blown autism. Minus the communication part, which I've never had a problem with. I've always been very articulate or whatever. I have fucking autism. And part of that was just coming up with the most weird, random shit at the most random times. Some things like no one else could understand but me. And I don't even understand to this day some of it. And one of them was this thing where I must have been about 9 years old or so, 9 or 10. And I come up with this thing that I called the Barbeque Bob mustache guy. Now, I didn't actually know any person named Bob that liked to barbecue, but the closest thing I could think of was this friend of my parents named Rick Taffer, who did happen to have a mustache and did like to barbecue at his house. So we went over his house for a number of barbecues. And I guess, yeah, modeling it on Rick Taffer morphs into this Barbeque Bob mustache guy. And when I told my dad, of course, he would do the whole like Twilight Zone thing when he wanted to indicate I was doing something weird or stupid, whatever. He'd be like, no, 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 no. And yeah, so for years after that, basically like into adulthood, when I would do something similar, he'd be like, no, 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 no. That's really weird, David. That's almost like a Barbeque Bob mustache guy. It's like Barbeque Bob. And like, he never really let me live that shit down. And yeah. Yeah, I also came up with something that I call the big muscular dot guy. That one I have no clue at all. It was just so fucking like artistically random. Like it was like this hybrid between like two or three like non-existent people that I'd never even met. But I had this image in my head of like a doctor with like muscles and a ponytail, even though I've never seen any doctor that looked like that. And I just, along with Barbeque Bob mustache guy, I came up with the big muscular dot guy. And yeah, that was some of the ways I was pretty wacky and out there as a kid. But yeah, that was my little story about when I was a little autistic motherfucker and one day decided to invent this person that didn't even exist, the Barbeque Bob mustache guy, and how people like my dad never let me live that shit down. What a guy. What a fucking guy.